Nigeria has joined the international community to commemorate this year's Global Data Privacy Day, a day dedicated to create awareness on the rights and privacy of citizens in the data processing ecosystem. At the press briefing to flag off the week-long event, the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy says the ministry has gotten approval from the Federal Executive Council for a draft National Data Protection Bill to be sent to the National Assembly for consideration.
The Data Protection Bureau has created many jobs today. By 2022, the value of it today is around 5.5 billion naira in Nigeria. We have Nigeria Data Protection Policy and Nigeria Data Protection Bill. When the Federal Executive Council approves, it becomes a federal government and a national policy immediately. By transmitting to National Assembly is another process of making that policy to become a principal legislation.
We were created to bring to life the NDPR, to fully implement the provisions of the NDPR, to create awareness in data privacy and protection, to build capacity of Nigerians, to create jobs, to create wealth, and to ensure that Nigerians are respected in the global digital economy, and to also ensure that the rights, privacy, and freedoms of Nigerians are adequately protected whenever you do anything online.
Well, joining us is the National Commissioner and Chief Executive Officer of Nigeria Data Protection Bureau, Dr. Vincent Olatunji. Kristen.
Very warm welcome, Doctor.
Thank you.
Suddenly, the digital economy, data protection and the rest, is just been so rife in the atmosphere. Tell us more about, the rights to data protection and all the convergence, in Nigeria's capital, Abuja.
Thank you very much. As you really mentioned before, the first edition of the Digital Economic Conference in sub-region, West African sub-region, just ended today. It was hosted by the Honorable Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Isa Ali Ibrahim, in order to create a regional framework for preparing West Africa for the future, which is with us already. That is the area of global digital economy. Now, the whole world is going digital, and one thing that is really key there, which is the foundation of digitalization, the issue of identity. Identity in terms of your name, your email address, your telephone numbers, your bank account details, your house addresses, your email, and so on. And there are some others, the area of sensitive information, like your health information, your religious lineage, your religious belief, your political opinion, your labor union affiliation, and so on. So it's really important for you to ensure that that data which you share on regular basis, when you do one thing or the other online, is adequately protected and is safeguarded within the law of the country. And that is why the issue of data privacy and protection is not a global affair, that all over the world, countries are putting in place structures in terms of laws, in terms of legislation, in terms of regulations, and also setting up their data protection supervisory authority to ensure that such laws, such regulations that are put in place are adequately implemented. Because it's one thing for you to have the law, it's a completely different thing to ensure that it is fully implemented. And that Nigeria joined this trend of what is happening globally in setting up our own regulation, issuing our own regulation in 2019, when the current minister was still the DG of NITDA, National Information Technology Development Agency. It was issued as a subsidiary legislation to NIDA Act of 2007. Now, we started implementing under NIDA, but early last year, February 4th last year, based on the recommendation of the Honorable Minister, Mr. President approved the creation of the Nigeria Data Protection Bureau, which is now the Data Protection Supervisory Authority for the country. And what we are to do is to ensure that we fully implement the Nigeria Data Protection Regulation in Nigeria, and also to ensure that we have a principal law, because a regulation is not as strong as having a principal law, mainly for data privacy and protection in Nigeria.
Sorry, just before you come in, how much sensitization have you carried out, particularly with stakeholders in the industry, against plagiarism, against protecting, rights ownership?
Thank you very much. You just mentioned something about Data Privacy Day. In fact, in Nigeria, it's Data Privacy Week for us, which is a major leap in awareness creation in the area of data privacy and protection. Yeah. As far back as 1981, when the Council of Europe opened Convention 108, which is the major framework for data privacy and protection globally. It was opened on 28th of January 1981 for signature. And in 2006, the Council of Ministers of the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe came together and now identified that date, that 28th of January, as the Global Privacy Day, which is being celebrated all over the world. But in Nigeria, looking at the level of understanding of the subject matter of data privacy and protection and the level of development in the country and increasing digitalization in the country through the digital economy sector, we believe that it's not something that we can just do in one day. Yeah. So on another basis, it goes on for 1 week every year. And that was what we started on Saturday with the press conference, and we've had a series of activities like today. We adopted about 61 schools where we sent a lot of people to professionals in the field, some of our DPCOs, to even preach the gospel of data privacy to students in schools.
Great stuff.
Now coming to the area of awareness, we've engaged a lot of organizations. For instance, in the public sector, we've engaged more than 51 ministry departments and agencies, and including the Office of Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Federal Ministry of Health, Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, Nigeria Defense College, Nigeria Bureau of Public Procurement, and Nigerian National Health Insurance Authority, Lottery Commission, different sectors. That
okay. All right, Dr. Olatunji, great stuff you're doing. You seem you have your work cut out for you, but some things you've said, and I wanted to follow on that. Terms and conditions are really written in small fonts, and they're very lengthy.
Absolutely.
And we just click agree. I'm guilty of that. So when you talk about awareness, I'm wondering. You talk about law and regulation. That's on the government side. Yeah. On the individual side, what should we not be doing? Not what we should be doing. Not be doing. Yes. I know, like I said, I read all of that. Secondly, from what you've said, the privacy or the privacy policy of Nigeria and how compliant are the organizations that practice in our jurisdiction. I'm asking this because I've not heard of anybody being fined. Nigerians are losing money in banks. People are being defrauded. Yeah. I mean, we look at the likes of Amazon, the likes of, all these Google companies. They're hit with billions of dollars for not protecting people's data.
So how are you protecting?
How are you protecting Nigerians' data? Who is getting fined? Are you saying that all the organizations are
and who is getting taxed?
Yes,
exactly.
Yes, thank you very much. It's a two-way thing. One, on the part of data subjects, and on the part of the data controllers and data processors. On the part of data subjects, there's so many things you need to do to protect your own data. You don't share your information anyhow. You mentioned the issue of reading through lengthy. We call it privacy policy. Now, it's the responsibility on you to ensure that you go through properly, you understand before you click yes, because you accept. Because if you accept, you are liable, and they will have put in conditions why they are collecting your data, for what purpose, how they're going to use it, how they're going to store it, how they're going to process it, if they're sharing with a third party or not. All these things will be in the data privacy, and that is part of what we should monitor to ensure that the data privacy policy they are issued out is simple, it's straightforward, that you can easily read and understand. Because they must have their own data privacy policy as part of the measures they are putting in place for the security of your data. Then in terms of technology they are deploying, they need to let you know how they are sharing, they need to let you know, which you must understand, which you must read and understand. Now, coming to the issue of what we are doing in terms of monitoring what data processors are doing in the data. I'm glad to say that between when we started and now, we've investigated about 5-6 major organizations in the telcos and the financial sector. In fact, in the news currently, about 2 days ago, 2 major banks are being investigated by us. And investigation takes a long process. For instance, you mentioned fine being issued. That of Meta that was just concluded about a month ago started in 2018. You want to be thorough, you want to be fair to everybody to ensure that what you are doing is right. So we have investigated about 6 organizations. We've concluded 1, and other 5 are ongoing in telcos, in in the financial sector, and even the gaming sector, because we cut across all sectors. But what we are trying to do, because of our crime, is not to make undue publicity about who we are investigating and how we are investigating. Because when we started, the first 2 banks that we started investigating, shareholders started withdrawing their shares. People started
So you
rating
affected your business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now we are trying to preach the ease of doing business in Nigeria. We don't want to bring a kind of
create
regulation
panic.
that create panic and lead to loss of
Jobs,
jobs
employment,
and
the
even
rest.
trust in the system. All we need to do is to correct them. That's why we say remediation process, which we will put in
Absolutely.
place. And some have even paid their fines, which we decided not to announce.
Beautiful.
Because what we need to do is to ensure that we are doing the right thing. It's not about the fine. It's about taking you through a
the right
compliance
process.
process.
Yeah.
These are the things you need to do. These are the things you need to put in place.
Correct.
And we monitor you. We don't just say pay fine and we step back.
That's super.
Pay this remediation fee.
Great.
They will
Great.
monitor you, will take you through what you are doing. And we have organizations working with them.
Okay.
Licensed data compliance organizations, which is a model that is unique to us in Nigeria.
Okay.
We give out license to private sector organizations who offer compliance as a service to organizations, both the public and private
Thanks
sector.
so very much. I'm sure we're going to be interrogating this more because there is a currency in it, data protection and the laws in Nigeria. Dr. Vincent Olatunji is the National Commissioner and Chief Executive Officer of the National Data Protection Board. Nigerian Data Protection Board. Thanks for coming
Bureau.
on.
Thank you so
for having
much.
me.
Thank you.
Thank you.